Hello, dear students. How are you all? This is Miss Wam. Today we have a writing session and we are going to learn how to write a traditional story. As we discussed before, traditional stories are very old stories that have been told and retold hundreds of years ago. And why? To teach us a lesson or to teach us a moral. These are writing tips to help you to write a traditional story. So the traditional story is very old, and the reason that why people write stories is to teach us a lesson or a moral. So at the beginning, you have to start with a topic sentence, like long ago, once upon a time. Okay, so the topic sentence creates interest in your story. Number two, you have to introduce the setting and the character. You have to include adjectives to describe the characters, and of course you need to introduce the setting to tell us or to tell the reader where and when did the story take place. Number three is to describe the characters to make connection between the reader and your story and to make your story more interesting. Number four, introduce the problem or the main event. There is something important in each story. We call this the main event or the problem. Number five, use time order words like at the beginning, first, eventually, accidentally, after that, suddenly. These are called time events because you need to put your story in order. Number six, use past simple verbs. Of course, when you retell a story that already happened, you need to use past simple verbs. Number seven, end your story with a lesson or a moral. Something you have learned from the story. Something very important and you need to think about it. A lesson that you learned. And above all, the title should be catchy. The title should create interest to the reader. Okay, let's go. Here, the title, Yushi the Stone Cutter. And you may think of something else, another catchy title or another interesting or attractive title, like the Stone Cutter Life. What else? You can think of any other title if you want. So after we write the title, we start the beginning of our story. The beginning, you should write a topic sentence. The topic sentence like once upon a time, long ago, one day. Okay, so these are the topic sentence. Once upon a time, there was an old stone cutter called Yoshi. He lived in the mountains of Japan. He was poor and had a bent back and hard hands. There was a hidden spirit in the mountains that granted people what they wished for. So here you can find the topic sentence, when, when did the story happen, and where did the story happen. So now we are talking about the setting. When and where is the setting of the story. The characters here, the Yoshi and the hidden spirit. When you provide description about the characters that make your story more engaging and more interesting to people. So here's a description about Yoshi. He was poor and had bent back. Okay, so that's the beginning of the story. Let's move to the middle of the story. One day he visited a rich man and he wished to become rich He said, oh, I want to be rich. And who said, your wish is heard? The spirit. Spirit said, your wish is granted. So that's the main problem or the main event in the story. That's the first thing that happened in the story to teach Yoshi a lesson. One day he visited a rich man. If he wouldn't have visited the rich man, he wouldn't have wished to become rich like him, and the spirit wouldn't have changed him to anything. So that's the problem, or that's the main event in the story. Okay, and after we introduce the main event or the problem of the story, we start writing details and details. Details include actions, actions, actions. You provide lots of actions in the past. You provide lots of adjectives, lots of adverbs, and of course, don't forget to use the time order words. Okay, so this is detail number one. Eventually, while he was looking out of his window, he saw a prince in a carriage, and the servants fanned him. He said, I wish I can be a prince like him. The spirit said, your wish is granted, Yoshi. He became a prince, and the servant gave him water in a jeweled cup. He was hot, and he splashed some water on his skin. The sun was strong enough to dry the water so quickly. Yoshi said, I wish to be the sun. Soon he felt himself rising up in the sky, and he really became the sun. He sent strong rays and shone as hard as he could. The grass became withered, and people sweat and burned their skin. So this is detail number one. It includes lots of past verbs, lots of action words, and lots of adjectives. Well, the last detail here. Suddenly, a big thick gray cloud blocked the sun. He shone hard, but still the cloud can block the sun rays. He thought, if the cloud is stronger than the sun, so I wish to be a big thick gray cloud. Your wish is granted, Yoshi, said the spirit. After that, Yoshi became a cloud, and he cooled people down. The cloud rained, and the stream became green, and the crops grew. Rivers and streams flew. Nothing stopped them except the huge rocks. Well, here you can see lots of adjectives like huge, hard, gray, thick, big. Don't forget that the adjectives make your story very strong because it makes the reader create pictures in their minds so that they can picture the story and they can feel attached to the story. And of course, verbs in the past. Also, you can see here some time order words like suddenly and after that, soon. Okay, so it's very important when you write the middle of your story to introduce the problem or the main event, to write details, details, and details. To make your details very strong, you need to use time order words and you need to use adjectives. Also, you need to write all the events of the story. They have to be connected to each other. They have to be connected to create something called the plot of the story. Here's the end of the story. Angrily, Yushi wished he could be strong as the rock to block the river from running. He said, if the rock is stronger than the sun and the rain, then I wish to be a rock. He thought for a minute. The rocks, they can't be affected with the sun nor the rain, so I want to be very strong. I want to be the strongest ever. I want to be a rock. Lastly, Yushi became a huge rock. Nothing could affect me. Nothing is stronger than me, said Yushi. Then Yushi the rock felt tools cutting into him. He mumbled, "A stone cutter is stronger than me? I wish I could be a stone cutter again." The spirit smiled and granted him his wish. Yoshi the stone cutter picked up his tools and started to work happily. Finally, he realized that to be happy, he had to accept himself. So here, this is the last detail in the story. So this detail leads us to the end of the story. Because when he turned into a rock, he realized that the stone cutter was stronger than the rock. Because here he mumbled like he was talking to himself very softly and very quietly, in a soft voice. "A stone cutter is stronger than me? I wish I could be a stone cutter again." He was searching for happiness. He wanted to be the strongest ever, to feel happiness. But to be happy, you don't need to be strong. You just need to accept yourself, to accept who you are. And that's the lesson of the story, or the moral of the story. To accept yourself and accept who you are, because you will find the happiness inside you. Thank you so much. I want you to write the story again using your own words. And remember the tips at the beginning of the video. Thank you. Bye.